Hello, welcome aboard. um, Quite often people ask me, what would I do if there's calamity? You know, that's the usual thing. What happens if the van breaks down? What happens if I get sick? And another one I see other people being asked is, what would they do with their pets? I don't actually have a pet of my own at the moment, but it's something that I have been considering. And these are valid questions, and they can apply to whether you live in a van or like myself, or whether you live in a house, really. I think the main thing is to always be like the Boy Scout and have a plan. So you have a plan in place so that when something, an emergency of any description happens, um, you know straight away what the plan is. Like they do in hospitals, they have an escape route, and well, businesses have to as part of health and safety. You have a plan where you all meet, and it's the same principle, and we have to apply that in life as well, um, and it makes life easier. So let's address some of these crisis situations. Now, if the van broke down, um, I have mentioned before that I'm a member of an AA plan where not the vehicle is insured, but myself is. So it doesn't matter which vehicle I'm in, even if I was with in a stranger's vehicle, I suppose it would work. Um, I can call on them to come and assist me. Now, I actually had to have this, I had this situation recently where I actually had to get the AA to rescue me, but I'll tell you that in a minute. The main thing is that you you have a plan so that in the event of anything happening, you can go straight to it. Now, my suggestion is we all have, as part of life, a next of kin. It doesn't matter who that may be. It may even be a friend or relative or whatever, but you have someone in your life, surely, that you can call on in an emergency. Now, if I was in the van and I was a long distance away, had a medical emergency, and I had a pet in the vehicle, for example, I would call on that person and let them know my circumstances. And then it would be for them to call the local veterinary clinics in the area that I was broken down in or had a medical issue, um, and find some sort of pet care. There, you know, people who assist or foster animals. There would be someone available, I'm sure, in any place in any part of the world that would take care of that animal while you were hospitalised, for example. If you were broken down, then in my case, I would call on the AA and get assistance. If it was something major and the vehicle had to be towed away, I would have a plan to stay in either a motor camp and or a hotel, motel, that kind of situation. And of course, my priority, if I had a pet, would be to look for a place that was pet friendly, and that would solve that problem. The other thing would be to ask for a courtesy car. Most businesses that repair cars and vehicles will offer that, and especially if they knew you were living in the vehicle, I'm sure something could be arranged, and failing that, you would perhaps need to hire a car, but they could assist you. I think an important thing is that not to feel alone and fearful, because it's surprising how many people are willing to help you if you ask. They're not mind readers, so you have to say something. And I'm one who tends to try and solve problems on my own and find it really difficult to ask people for help. And again, I will tell you about my little story. Um, I think that's pretty much that, and I've covered pretty much that, but I will tell you my little story if I can relate it, retell it properly. Now, I was in my runaround car, not this vehicle, and I went to get petrol. And it's in a very out of the way business, industrial area, I should say, in town, in the city. And of course, it was a Friday evening. It was a blistering day. We had like 30 degrees. And I got out of the car with just my EFTPOS card because you have to pay before the pump will work. And when I got out, the car locked itself. Don't know how. I took the key out of the ignition, and normally I would always put it in my pocket because I don't want someone to jump in my car and drive off, because as you are all probably aware, living in cities these days, you tend to feel that every drug addict and problem maker is around you and ready to make a problem for you, shall we say. So I was wearing a dress, no pockets, so I pulled it out of the ignition, thought, oh, I've got no pockets. And then I thought about starting the car and winding the window down, and it was all, in hindsight, too much hassle. So I threw it on the driver's seat, got out, and went and put the EFTPOS card in the machine, and it got all that set to go. Went to go in the car to put my EFTPOS card back in my handbag, and what do you know? I can't get in. And I can tell you that realization in that moment was one of the most horrifying, frightening experiences I've had in a long time. Because there I am standing, I felt naked. All I had was an EFTPOS card. No phone, no water, nothing. I could see it in my vehicle. I couldn't get into the vehicle. And the people that were coming in and out were absolutely ignoring me. Not that they should take any notice of me, but I'm prone to talk to myself living on my own. And I'm saying, oh, what on earth am I going to do? I've locked myself out of my car. And I'm thinking, I can't call my family. I can't call anyone. Because another point to think about in this day and age is we don't memorise phone numbers like we used to. I didn't know anyone else's except my own, which was a fat lot of use. So I'm standing there. There was no businesses at that time of the day on a Friday. They all closed around about 4 o'clock. And it was a really long, long walk to any place that had well, I don't even know. We used to have phone boxes. We don't have them anymore, do we? So, yes, to get help from somebody was just, honestly, I was flummoxed and frightened, because I've been at that service, it's just a petrol self-service area. I've been there before, and I've seen some really dodgy characters, and you sort of imagine that you're at the mercy of the person that's pulled up next to you. So, as I say, I was very fearful, but there was one guy who said he was conversing with me and asking me what had happened. So he was actually showing some interest and concern, whereas all the others were taking no notice at all. So anyway, to cut a long story short, bless him, he came to my rescue, and I said to him, would I be able to get you to call the AA for me? And he said yes, he would. So he got his petrol and moved and parked it out of the way of all the other cars, because you're in a queue to, holding everybody up. And so after a long chain of events of ringing, he had to use his phone in the end because I couldn't use it. And he called AA, and of course then they wanted to know my full name, date of birth, and my address. And of course I'm standing right beside a complete stranger, divulging those real key kind of details that you don't normally share with a stranger. But I thought, it did occur to me, but I thought, what alternative have I got? I've got no alternative. And then the woman at AA actually rang him back on his phone and asked if I was a legitimate person. I don't know why she said that or whether he was joking. But anyway, they said that there was going to be a wait of about an hour. So he was, in the meantime, you've got to remember that when you're ringing any business like that, you get background music and you put on hold for quite a while, which we were on quite a long wait. And I spoke to him and we were chatting kind of, back and forwards. And of course, he kept hugging me, which I'm not a hugger. So that comes through past experiences, I suppose. I'm a bit of a standoffish person as far as physical contact goes. And he kept wanting to hug me because he thought that I was distressed, which I wasn't, thankfully. I would have been a few years ago, but I'm a lot calmer than I used to be. So anyway, I know that there were experiences during that time where I felt a bit uncomfortable, but he was a really, really nice guy and did help. So that was a blessing because if he hadn't been there to help me, I don't know what I would have done really. So I think angels appear in ways and forms that you are not expecting, and miracles can happen. So in this instance, I was very fortunate that the right person was there at the right time. And I think that quite often happens. I often think that back in my life that there's been times when the right person has turned up at the right time, and that is a blessing. So anyway, eventually the AA man came and he fixed the problem in about 2 seconds with a special equipment he had to open the door, and I was on my way. And I tell you what, I have never been so pleased to see anybody in my life. I was like a dog that had been locked up all day and waiting for its owner to come home. If I'd had a tail, it would have been wagging, I can tell you. So yes, the moral of the story is if you have AA insurance or something similar, whatever you have in your country, that's a really good investment. The things I learned were don't be judgmental, which I'm always trying to do. I've had a lesson in that just recently. And of course, being at the service place, the fuel service pump, gave me that opportunity not to judge people. Not everybody's a drug addict or a problem maker. So that was actually a good learning curve. Another funny little side note was that a couple of days later, I was watching YouTube, shock horror, and the ads came on, and who was on the ad but the guy that lent me his phone. I remember I said, we were talking about jobs and what have you, and I said to him, what sort of work are you looking for? Because he was looking at changing his job. And he said, or changing his, where he was going to live. He was going to move. Anyway, he said he was in IT. I could tell when he said it, he kind of was trying to do the abbreviated answer, because IT is a very broad spectrum, isn't it? But I thought, what are the odds, you see? But then I realised I was talking on his phone. And so it got me thinking about how Google records everything, doesn't it? It's always listening. But yeah, he obviously makes local advertisements, and he must have acted in that small advertisement. But it did make me sort of do a double take when I looked at it, because I thought, that's him. Anyway, I think I'll leave it for now, and thank you so much for spending time with me. I really love it when you stop by. It's been blowing a gale here. Don't know if you can see those poor trees out there. And it actually was cold. Last night I had to put some socks on my feet to go to bed because my toes were cold. And it was in the 30s last week. Oh, I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much again for being here. I really do appreciate you. And until next time, please stay safe. Don't be fearful. Um, yeah, and have a great week coming. Until next time, bye for now.